exciting. I'm Snorri, aka Fezzik, and today are some of my colleagues. Kent, design director, Atli, one of the founders, Thor, general manager, and last but not least, my partner on the community team, Giorgio, who you may know as Error 404. We're super excited to finally deep dive into the subject of Civitas with you guys. For this AMA, we picked this live Q&A style where we gathered the questions beforehand, but we will be answering them here live. We have not written down any of the answers, so everything you hear today is straight from the horse's mouth. We got like over 100 great questions, so sadly we had to trim the list quite a bit because of time constraints. This AMA is mainly focused on gameplay and token related questions. Any other like art stuff will be done in the future. And with the questions that we picked, we did our best to cover as much variety as possible and pick questions that allow for an expansive answer that might hopefully answer some of the other questions that were not necessarily picked. So if you did write us a question and it wasn't picked, we hope that after today you will have some answers or clarity on the subject at least. We ended up with just over 30 questions, and we'll be allowing ourselves about an hour and a half to go over the questions. And at the end, we'll hopefully have some time for more Q&A from you guys. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. How are you guys?
Great to be here with you all today, and amazing to see so many people tuning in as well. In order to save time, why don't we dive right into the questions, the reasons why we're here?
Yes. Let me just bring up the questions. First question is from HODLOVICH. He asks, why Civitas? What is the story here?
Yeah, this is really good. So when we first started designing this game, we had a lot of things that were really important to us. And the first things about that were community and this idea of being like a citizen and working together and collaborating with other players to do something amazing. So we had actually a lot of brainstorming, kind of talking about the right name that really kind of represented what we're trying to build. And Civitas is a Latin word, and it literally means community, citizenship, being a citizen. And it just really kind of brought together, when you look at the history of the word that was used kind of like in Rome with the Senate and being a citizen, which is a civitas, really kind of encompass a lot of like the core features and the things that we really believed in when we started designing this game. So this name just really kind of represents quite a bit to us what we're trying to build.
Cool. People are also interested in the kind of the development process of the game. Filansky asks when we started to develop the game.
Yeah, we started looking at this game more than a year ago. So we kind of have a process, at least for us, that when we really want to start doing something, we spend quite a bit of time internally just talking about the design, pitching it to the team, kind of understanding our vision of what we're trying to make and why. So we spent a good 6-7 months just sort of designing this product and understanding the vision. And we shared a video a couple days ago kind of showing like an inspiration video. And that's kind of part of that early development process we have, where we need to be very convinced of what we're building before we try to really kind of push it out to the community or investors or anyone trying to show that. So we started about early last year kind of with the design of it. And then we started kind of hiring and ramping up and starting building things about summer last year. So a little bit over a year now.
Cool. Next question is more about like the actual gameplay on the final product. HODLOVICH wants to know, what does gameplay look like and what are play styles that are available to players?
Absolutely. So this one's really kind of good to kind of go over because one thing that's very important to us is cross-platform, which means if you're on your phone or you're on a PC, no matter what you're playing on, you should be able to pick it up on whatever your device that you're most comfortable with or what you have with you at that time and play the game and participate. So we are trying to ensuring that everything you can be sort of doing across platforms you can do on any device. There is some kind of exceptions when it comes to AR, and we're going to kind of cover that a little bit later. But we do want to make sure that whatever you're playing on, you can do it. So if you kind of imagine if you're on your phone or your PC, you should be able to access your city tower. Understand like your quest or your missions, talking to the community, playing on your land, constructing things, crafting and building, doing quests and missions, kind of seeing what's kind of happening on the global scale, like how cities are interacting with each other, trade, or if there's any war going on. So all these things should be accessible kind of no matter what kind of device you're playing on.
So you're saying is a top-down view of your land and other available options.
Yeah, so the assets we're making are all in 3D. So even though it's top down, we do want you to be able to kind of zoom in and see the detail. Like a lot of characters and things that we're building have like a lot of detail in it. So the main kind of playstyle is a type of top down, but there's quite a few different things you can kind of be zooming in on the camera and kind of getting really kind of close into what you're making and building. And definitely then if you're on your mobile device and you're going around doing things in geolocation or AR, that play style is going to change a bit too because you're kind of interacting or engaging with things a lot more on your phone to what you're looking at.
All
So
right.
other users are also interested in the gameplay aspects. Civitas Kona asks, what is the end goal of the game? And this kind of relates to other questions asking about
Mhm.
if there are win conditions or what is your mission while playing Civitas.
So I think it's really important that we kind of say that like Civitas is going to be on one server and it's an emergent game. It's a game that's always kind of evolving and changing based on actions that other players are doing on their city. So just like us as all people in our cities we're in now, the end goal is to keep advancing, making ourselves better and moving forward, which is a kind of the goal that we have in Civitas too. We constantly want to be putting in new events or scenarios or tools to the community. So the gameplay is really going to change based on what players are deciding they want to be doing and how they're interacting with each other. But I think it's important that we're not saying, it's not like the game Civilization where you decide the winning condition before you play. Oh, if I just destroy the other cities, I win. That's not really the goal of Civitas. The goal is like to keep advancing and growing and making the best society possible. But just like in the real world, things change either because of the economy changes, the resources change, conflict changes, how the relationship between other cities will change. And this is going to create a lot of different gameplay in the game. And we want to kind of create scenarios which kind of make these incentives change by the city. So there's not quite like so much of an end goal other than how far can really advance your city.
So it's a living universe.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Next question is from Mr. Pimp. He wants to know more about the difference of mobile gameplay and desktop gameplay. Other than that, the mobile gameplay has AR components in it.
Yeah, so it's like I kind of said before, it's very important that we're making sure that we're cross-platform from day one. That's really important to us to make sure whatever device people playing on, they can be playing on whatever they want to choose. The the one exception is just with the AR specific features that are kind of connected to your mobile device. So that's could be the only kind of exception where to access at least those features you need a phone. But we are kind of ensuring that the game isn't like blocked off if you're not doing things in AR. You're still going to be able to progress and advance and do things, and you're not like stopped from advancing. We just think a lot of these features are really exciting, and I think it adds another really an exciting kind of component that we're seeing that you can kind of do, especially with blockchain and AR and a lot of kind of geolocation stuff we can add. But we're kind of ensuring it's not going to stop people from progressing in the game.
So quite a few people were asking about the augmented reality aspects, and SkyHunterZ asks, what will be the added value of augmented reality?
Definitely. I think you're seeing this right now in like other even Web3 projects like Steppen, this idea that with the NFTs that people have or their characters, by kind of combining this with the idea of like doing things outside and incentives, your NFTs kind of recording that and advancing and getting better and more utility with that. So there's a lot of exciting things that we can kind of be adding to your NFTs and the things that you're going to be doing outside. Additionally, we think it's just a great playfield. There's a lot of opportunities where we're a game that's about the real world, the cities, civilization, things you can get. And so we want to use this as like a playground in terms of like content we can add. Either that's like little mini games you can play where you can kind of be rewarded with city tokens or resources, or we have this idea of like even just placing unique resources around you. The idea that I can be pulling up my phone now and I could see a very rare diamond just near me. And I could take this and it's used for like an amazing crafting material that I could make something really amazing and put on my land. Or I could be trading this on the market for other things that I need. It just opens the door for a huge playground that we can add a lot of stuff into Civitas. And as we start developing more and more of the game after launch, it just gives us a huge, huge opportunity to keep adding more value into the game.
The AR discussions continue with the next question from Valeriya. Valeriya says, regarding the real-world geolocation technology and participating in activities scattered around the player, what will those minigames look like? Will players be able to collect resources around them? Will the type of resources depend on location? For example, gold in certain places and spices in other places and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely when it comes to like the mini games, we think there's some really fun things we can do. One things that we want is this idea that they're not meant to be very long experiences. We don't want necessarily like a mini game where a player who wants to go outside and do it has to commit 30 minutes or 1 hour for like one mini game. So things that you can do that are quite small and quite fun that you can sort of kind of play it. You can chance to earn, maybe do it with your friend and do it co-op, but you chance you can do lots of little mini games and kind of earn things. And a lot of inspiration that we had that was, just from games that we play ourselves too. Like we were big fans of this really old Japanese game called Bishi Bashi or like Mario Party, this idea of like really small little fun kind of experiences. And this kind of lets us like as developers kind of add a lot of these games into the game quite easy, so players always have a lot of new little fun mini games they can be engaged in. And we have some kind of long-term plans where we can even get the DAO kind of involved, where we can kind of be opening up some of these tools and even the kind of community be kind of making some mini games too. When it comes to like resources, no, we have some like our own technology where we're kind of making sure like resources get kind of seated around you. So no matter where you are, if you got on a plane and you flew to Tokyo or you were in Miami or you're in Manila, anywhere you go, there's just going to be stuff around you you can be kind of collecting. So no matter where you are, there's going to be stuff for you to do.
So Monsai.T is asking about AR as well, and kind of a long question that goes into the geolocation, which you just addressed. But if in case users aren't able to travel, if they will be at a disadvantage. But they also ask about if people who do not have a AR compatible smart device and can only play on a PC, will they be at a disadvantage?
No, I think what we're trying to make sure is that through the marketplace and other ways that players still have access to things that kind of come from, the geolocation. We are also finding ways that when players want to at least access the resources around you, that we have ways that they can kind of access that without needing AR. So that still does need a mobile device, but we're kind of ensuring that the things that are found in there kind of go back into the marketplace that which is in game. So it doesn't use it's just using where players can kind of sell the resources they find or trade it for things that you're kind of producing on your own land that you have access to it. So we are kind of ensuring that there isn't going to be any hard blockers or anything that kind of stops players from advancing.
Cool. Now we're kind of going into more generic gameplay questions. Monsai.T has this one as well. He asks, can players play solo and not join a sub-DAO, or is joining a city sub-DAO required? Is it possible to play solo? What benefits and limitations will players have compared to participating in a city?
You're absolutely able to play solo. So what we've kind of designed is like a pure free to play path into the game. So you're able to sort of jump into Civitas with you don't need any NFTs, you don't need any land. You could just get in and start playing. You're able to start developing things on your own private piece of land. You can still access everything on the AR. You can still craft and build things. You're completely able to get in there and just do your own thing if that is what you want. And that role is just called a nomad. So you're able to completely go in and just play. We do feel that definitely being in a sub DAO is absolutely exciting, being part of like a community and building things together. So that's the kind of the main limitation is you're not part of that sort of sub DAO itself, which is that kind of community of people trying to find a way to work together and sort of build their own city and advance the kind of society that way. So I think that's the main thing they're losing, but you can definitely play solo and do your own thing.
Mr. Pimp asks a question on the same topic, but from the different angle on how we will encourage more players to team up and form alliances. And will this be done through incentives for bonus prizes as playing as a team, or what's the upside of playing in a DAO?
So I think that's this sort of incentive of like why you want to do this really kind of comes into like why the sub DAO structure we have is so powerful and how you kind of see needing to work together is in everybody's benefit. So when you're part of this like sub DAO, you're a citizen and you're working with your fellow citizens to try to advance things. You're going to have your kind of council, which is kind of helping people have their own like governance and guidance on things you need to do, but you're going to have quests that you guys need to work together. These quests are built in a way that they're not necessarily meant to be done by one person, so the people have to kind of come together and say, hey, how do we do this? What resources, what things need to be built? How do we accomplish this? So there is going to be these larger goals, and as your city is leveling up, you're getting access to different NFTs and other things. So there's a lot of incentive to kind of work together and advance your city together. Now, how does a city kind of like reward you? Part of this sub DAO is we kind of want to make sure that there's always this constant sort of leaderboard system within your sub DAO. So you're actually seeing how every single person is contributing by either supplying resources, or could be buildings, or it could be tokens, or it could be a multitude of different things. But there's always going to be this way that they can kind of track and see that. And every sub DAO itself has its own treasury. So if you're kind of a player that's really contributing and advancing, that's very kind of clear. And there is like a reward structure that you can kind of be rewarding citizens who are really doing their best or just helping out in the community and organizing people. So we really want to make sure players are in full control themselves on how to sort of decide that these things are kind of handled in each sub DAO.
Now we start getting into more violent questions. Alex Capritz wants to know more about the gameplay structure regarding PvP, where factions Will factions fight each other? If so, how will this be implemented? What types of NFTs are planned, like land, hero, castle, or something else?
Definitely. I remember in the actual kind of game design channel, lots of people kind of asking really good questions about P versus P and how that work and what does it mean. So I definitely think this is something a lot of people here kind of care about. So I can we haven't fully fleshed out all of this yet, but I can kind of go over how we're approaching it right now, or some things that are really important to us. So the main thing that's kind of important to me is there is a system in terms of that we do want P versus P, but it's less about, say, me attacking Mr. Thor. It's not quite like a one-on-one P versus P. It's cities themselves are going into your conflict. Just like today, it's our governments that go to war, not necessarily individual people. So it's the same thing in Civitas. Your city might have a conflict with another city, and it's up to then the people to sort of be supplying the stuff that's needed to create an army and the upkeep for that army to be able to go to this. Like, going to war is expensive, and it's not really done by one person. It's a whole society has to kind of come together and support that. So with that, we do feel it's important that it's not necessarily that a city is attacking another city directly. We're not very big fans of very punishing P versus P, whereas you wake up in the morning, all of a sudden all your resources are gone and everything's gone because a stronger city came and raided your entire city. So that's not really something that we want to be having in Civitas, or kind of pushing for that type of design. We want P versus P to be fun. We want it to be incentives for it. We want it to be rewarding, but not so much the point that it's punishing, where just one city kind of dominates everything, because we will introduce new cities into the game over time. And we don't want like the new cities kind of feeling, oh, I'm just going to get bullied. So we're kind of thinking more about this idea right now that we have strategic points that kind of show up on the map during different time or different events. And it's going to be up to cities to kind of compete and try to secure these extra points that kind of show up on the world map. So there's going to be this kind of moment of competition where you feel like, oh, we really want to secure that. And then cities will have to kind of send their army to kind of claim it and hold it. And then it becomes a little bit of a king of the hill kind of a scenario, where there's then this conflict of the cities kind of competing for new things that show up on the map. So that's kind of the approach we have right now. Definitely, we need to kind of build it, test it, and kind of work through it with you guys a bit more. But that's kind of our approach right now.
There's a question from Yarn that is, a bit more pointed, I guess, towards an experience most of us free-to-play players recognize. Will I have to buy a shield or wake up at 4 a.m. to defend my town? Which goes into the kind of moment-to-moment RTS multiplayer PvP. Can you address that in a clear?
Yeah, it's just no. We're definitely trying to not have, like, there's a lot of sort of strategy games that are very common on free to play games, that you have to be paying for energy shields just to protect your base. Like, exactly for what I said. Like, you don't like to wake up and you just lost everything unless you spent $20 on a shield to protect you for the night. So we're not going to be having these kind of mechanics. We're not going to be having these sort of like pay to win mechanics for these things. That's definitely not the kind of approach that we want for Civitas, or the kind of design of a game that we want.
And now we go into a bit of a character related question from NG. He asks, the characters that we have shown them already are really detailed, which is a compliment. Would you please tell us, are they going to have special powers, or just look like that for showing their clan's history?
They're definitely gonna have unique things about them. So definitely has where, our art team is just amazing. I think you guys have been seeing some of the art, and we have so much more cool things to be showing you guys. And we're working on a lot of sort of story with these characters that we'll kind of cover in another AMA, where we kind of bring in our art director to kind of go over some of these things with you guys. Uh, but yes, definitely we're kind of ensuring that a lot of these kind of characters that kind of exist in these different themes have a lot of sort of unique utilities to them and things that are kind of special about them that have meaning that, can definitely fit more into your play style that you guys are going to care about.
MirageLight, very tangentially related to the subject, asks if there are specific classes in the game itself, or will each and every individual NFT have a role in the incoming game system?
Yeah, definitely. I can cover that. So we haven't announced any of this too much to you guys yet, but I can answer a little bit with this question. So each character that you're seeing right now is kind of like a class. And like we saw with like Ivar, he's kind of like a berserker, and that's kind of his class that he has. So we are looking at these individual timelines or themes and developing sort of a class structure out of that. And these are definitely going to have impact in the game. And we're definitely now kind of going through like some of the utility and some of the things that these will do. So every single one of these skins has other purposes within the game. And this could be related to things that how they interact with your sub-DAO. Like I said, if we went to war, you might want some of these NFTs as like your general or other kind of people associated to that war effort. Or if you're out doing things on AR, some of these skins might have direct utility to you walking around and playing mini games or collecting resources. So it's really important to us that every single one of these characters has a purpose and why we think they look amazing and they look great and they're going to have all these great visual distinctions to them. That's totally going to be there, but utility is super important to us and what these do in the game, how they change, how they evolve, how can they get better in the game and what does that mean for the character is 100% important to us, and every single one of these characters will have that.
Next question is about the timeline of the game. Dambi asks, I heard there are many times. I heard that the aspect of the past, present, and future is included in the game. Is the game a slow-moving game from the past to the future? Or is it a game where the past and the future can coexist?
It's a little it's a little bit of both. So the game will have at times a slow pace just because moving from one technology era to another is a lot of work. And when a city and players working together accomplish that, it shouldn't be something that's easy. It should be something that people really had to work for because you just moved your entire society into another era of technology. You've advanced. That's this isn't like civilization you do in the first 2 minutes you play, where it becomes something that just kind of quickly happens. This is something people work together for, and you achieve something where other cities are going to look at you and be jealous of like where how a city is advancing. So that part of it will be at sometimes a bit slow because it's up to players working together. So that's going to change. But yes, the past, the present, and the future can kind of exist at the same time. And the reason for that is since cities are kind of advancing at their own pace, there isn't really like an in-game clock. So cities will kind of be moving at different times in advance. Players who might have crafted something in an ancient era who are now maybe advanced to a modern really love the things that they built that are kind of ancient and they still want to use it. There's still a lot of great utility from it. It looks cool and they're really proud of the things that they still made back in the day and they want to keep it. So we definitely see like these things kind of coexisting, which is also why like when we started showing you guys some of our early characters, we kind of wanted to make sure that you saw a big variety of characters that did exist in different timelines because we didn't want to just put out the Ivar the Berserker, then everyone's like, oh, it's a Viking game. So it's really important to us that we can kind of show you that this spans different timelines and you as a player have a lot of freedom to kind of pick which one you like, but each one will have like a purpose.
So, I mean, people, quite a few people are wondering about like the exact dynamics of the NFTs, the blockchain, the metaverse, the physical game. The runner makes a statement about a lot of other projects separating their NFT collection from the physical gameplay or the metaverse, and will there be an integrational link between characters you mint in this game, if any, and the actual gameplay itself?
Yeah, definitely. I think I covered that a little bit, but just to make sure people are really kind of aware, there is no separation between our NFTs once we start announcing them and the game itself. So these won't be things that you just kind of collect and own, and they don't have anything to do with the game. They're fully going to be connected. And I think as we kind of get closer to sort of talking more about our NFTs and which will be soon, and we start talking about the utility they have and their purpose, it will be talking about how these things could potentially be working in the game from day one with you guys. So yeah, everything we have matters for the game for sure.
Kona wants to know if there will be crafting items for his characters.
Yes, definitely. So one thing about these characters too is they're not just like a skin. They have their own inventory. They have their own sort of like equipment where you can be, crafting new tools and items, either for things to be using outside in geolocation or mini games or other things that could affect some of the stats on the character. So there's definitely going to be things just within the game itself that you'll be kind of crafting and kind of equipping them on your characters to make them even better, or have different utility and features on it. So definitely going to be crafting for the characters.
So the runner asks another question related to the details on the NFTs, and are there any more details on whether the gameplay will require users to mint a character that will act as their kind of avatar in the game, or will it allow users to generate a stock character based on customized features already assigned, similar to character creators in many role-playing games?
Really good question. So I think I kind of mentioned it earlier that one big thing about what we're designing too is not necessarily having any kind of like barrier for players to get in the game. Like when I kind of mentioned the nomad free to play role that people can just jump into the game, this is the same with characters. So we're 100% going to have like an off-chain kind of character for everybody. So if you just wanted to, day one, get Civitas, you're not sure, you just want to play it first to see if you like it, you 100% will be able to get into the game, have land, and also have like a character you can start kind of using and equipping gear on and doing all these activities with them. So, definitely you'll have something for everybody to go into a stock character.
Monsai.T provided another question about scholarship. He asks, will the game have a scholar feature or not? If so, does Civitas have any supporting software or features to help guilds and large investors to control assets?
Super difficult question. So yes, obviously you saw with our announcement, we have two strategic partners, Merit Circle and YGG and YGG SCA. So definitely us like building into partnerships with like really good guilds is important to us. We love the kind of work they're doing, trying to like bring community together and people play games. And we're just really big believers in people who are gamers and people who really kind of want to form these communities. We haven't sort of worked out all the details yet on how that's going to be structured. We do have some kind of interesting ideas on our end in way that these guilds can be getting involved. and playing Civitas for it, but it's a little bit too early for us right now for, say, like supporting software features and like how people control assets. That's like a little bit too early for us right now to say either way how that's going to be. But I can definitely probably say in the next probably couple months, a lot of these kind of questions we'll have at least some first answers for, in terms of like how our partnerships are going to be working with some of our strategic partners. Additionally, if there's any other kind of guilds that we feel are great for the community and we think they're kind of supportive of what we're trying to build here. And then additionally, we'll be kind of working with them to kind of understand if there is kind of tools or features that kind of help scholarship people like control their assets, what that will look like.
Cool. Monsai has had a few very, very pointed questions. Another one is on the economy. It's quite long and it actually presents quite a few cases, but the kind of hard-boiled question is about the use of a single token, the city, besides the in-game currency, used for governors in the DAO and other utilities in the game. Can you speak to the upside and the downside to?
Yeah, I hope Monsai is here. I'm gonna try to find your name because yes, sir, you asked a lot of really good questions. So it was hard to not get them all. But I definitely wanted to kind of at least start talking about this with you guys because definitely it's going to be really important. So there's a lot of decisions that these games kind of have to make in terms of like how they sort of want their token to sort of function. And definitely we can show a lot of examples, and Monsai kind of brought in some pros and cons of using a single token system or like a dual token system. I guess like you can kind of compare that to duels like Axie with Axies and SLP. We looked at a lot of these projects that were kind of reliant on trying to balance two tokens to the system and trying to control that inflation like you kind of see with SLP. And we kind of made the decision the best thing for us is looking at doing a single token system. So first thing is we wanted to make sure we have a token that has a lot of supply that we can kind of be controlling, and kind of making sure that we're kind of controlling the price and making sure it's always kind of affordable for players to be getting into the game. And one thing to really remember is, a lot of our team kind of worked on economy-based games. If you kind of read our announcement, a lot of guys worked or were part of the team that was part of EVE Online. They're part of our strategic partners. So we're definitely talking to a lot of our partners for this, getting this advice and just kind of making sure we're approaching this the right way. And I think the more discussions that we have with our partners, the more confident that I feel us going into a single token system and just working on managing that is the right choice. We're definitely very aware that we need to kind of make sure we have a lot of utility in terms of how we're kind of burning tokens or how people are using that within the game to make sure the supply is controlled. But at the same time, we're making sure we have enough supply that we can be kind of controlling at a price that we feel is always going to be a good barrier to letting players get into the game, and it's something affordable for new players to come in. But again, that's also why we also designed that nomad role, is to make sure players could come into the game, start engaging with the economy and earning without ever having to spend anything to get into the game. So we're not going to quite have like a barrier that people can't play if the token increases at that moment for its price. So I feel like we're approaching this the right way, but we're still really early right now to really see it kind of work. But I think the more we start talking about this with you guys, you'll kind of see how we're using this, and kind of feel confident with us that we're making some of the right choices there.
Very cool. Monsai continues to put you on the spot, Kent, with his
Yes.
next question about Civitas' unique selling point. His concern is that a lot of the play and earn games are
Mhm.
very short lived copy pastes of other established games and only last for a couple months. What
Mhm.
highlights does Civitas have compared to traditional games?
So I think the thing that we kind of see ourselves as we're different is this is kind of a big another big question. And Monza, I'm gonna DM you someday if I ever we should have a chat sometime. But the thing that's different is we're caring about a few different things. Like one, I think the fact that we're caring so much about community and collaboration of how players need to kind of work together. There's not really any other kind of blockchain games like that right now that I can kind of see trying to do it the way that we're approaching it. And I think what you're seeing right now, and is kind of comment that a lot of people get kind of bored after 2 to 3 months is kind of really more telling about the state of the space right now. And there's a lot of games that are kind of rushed, pushing things out to the market too fast. Um, so I think that example is a lot of game companies are kind of just pushing their stuff out right now, and they're not really spending the time and kind of go into like a deep design. They're feeling get things out fast, get their token out quickly. But at that time, they don't actually have enough gameplay for players to kind of do it. And I think what we're going to see now is we're going to see a lot more studios that probably have a longer development time because there's no secret sauce to this. Making a good game and having good design just takes time and it takes effort, and if you really want to do this right, it just takes time, guys. And I think a lot of these kind of projects coming out have, some pretty art. It looks good, but I think a lot of people show it just doesn't have the substance that kind of make you want to stick with it and kind of keep playing. So I think this is one thing we're going to kind of see now with the guys, just longer development cycles, but that's going to be just required if we kind of want to have better games that kind of exist in the space right now. Um, Secondly, I think there's kind of a few choices that studios have when they start kind of making a game. Either you kind of want to be a content chaser, or you kind of want to look at emergent tools and emergent content. And by content chasing, what I mean is it's very similar to like say World of Warcraft. Is they're constantly putting out a new expansion or a new update, and they're trying to hope that players kind of stay with the game or they find it interesting. And the development studio is almost in a constant race where they're trying to give you guys enough content that you're going to finish in 2 days for like 6 months of work. And it's a race that studios can never win, and every single time they lose a bit of players. And I think our approach is more this kind of living world, this idea that we can start adding tools and just features to the sub DAO, and it's up to the players to kind of start developing how they want the game to play. We're not really dictating what is the right or the wrong way to play. It's up for players to find success and kind of create that kind of content. And this is where we kind of see games that kind of match with our partners like EVE Online. They've been going for 20 years and it's the same idea. The players kind of create the content, the issues, like the things that kind of happen within it. So that's definitely the way that we're seeing this. This is a game we want to be people playing 10 years from now, not just 6 months after a token launch and then people get bored.
Excellent answer, Kent. We, you know, onward to the, more of the hard questions. HODLOVICH asks about the gap between traditional gamers and P2E gamers, stating that it's still very large, and is curious about how we plan to bridge this in order to attract more traditional gamers to try out Civitas.
I think it's a little bit about what I was kind of just saying, before. I think the only way to start attracting kind of more traditional gamers, and I know a lot of us here are playing a lot of other games on a console or PC or mobile, and we play everything. But I think to kind of get that majority of the gaming community to be interested to try blockchain, it just has to go by making a good game, and it like I said, that just takes time. I think the community on the gaming side needs to see there's some depth, that there's something that actually feels like a game, and it's not just something for quick profit or speculation for its users. And it needs to be something that kind of feels like, hey, there's actually something in here that's fun. Um, so we're game developers. We've been doing this for most of the team has been doing this for over 15 years, and we really care about what we make, and we really care about it being played by as many people as possible. And the community is not going to change or until people start caring more about what they're building. And, it's hard to say if we're going to be the one that changes that, but I think it's a collective thing. But it's definitely something that's important to us. So we're definitely going to make our stand and showing we're going to make a great game.
We have another question regarding like unique selling points of Civitas from hhbb. He states that there are many high quality gamify projects appearing this year, next year, and how we're going to make Civitas stand out from them.
I think it's going to start showing pretty soon, just by the quality of the things that we're building. Even the characters that you're kind of, we've been kind of showing some fun videos right now of just our dancing characters, but we're putting things on a higher production level than you're kind of seeing for the majority of the products out there right now. And I think it's just by everything that we want to be putting out and showing you how our NFTs work in the game and why we think they're fun and why they're interesting for the product and the quality of what we're doing is just every step of the way, just showing that we're putting in something that we're more passionate and we love a little bit more than everybody else. It's a competitive space, just like normal gaming is, and the only way to do that is always just working hard and showing what you're building and why it's fun. And definitely, I think a big part will be just how we kind of engage with you guys. We definitely need to be talking with you guys more, getting your feedback, understanding what you guys are interested in, what you're not, and then finding like a middle ground. Because we're developing this game with you guys, and a big part of our structure of our game, like I said, is about community, and the whole idea of sub-DAOs is player driven. So a big part of that will be us really being caring about what we're building, but working with you guys and making sure we're making this for the right people.
So we're doing really well on time. We're kind of moving into another segment now, more gameplay related questions, but definitely want to encourage everyone who is here with us live. If you have follow-up questions, please write them in the AMA, and we'll try to, see if we have time to answer them at the end. The next question is from Machu Picchu. Very keen to know more details about the treasury reward system and the city success. If people can get some information on that element of gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. So each sub DAO or each city has its own treasury. And this is player controlled. So there will be mechanics and mechanisms within the game that cities themselves are kind of earning tokens through, players' effort and players' work. Cities trading with each other. There's a lot of mechanisms that have that basically cities can kind of earn wealth because it's expensive and it takes funds to kind of develop a society. And these funds can be kind of reinvested back into the city for advancing it on a skill tree or rewarding players. But we kind of want a structure where, these cities have their own kind of treasury through their own citizens that they can kind of be using to kind of reward as players. And this could even mean that every single sub DAO can have its own staking, and the city themselves are kind of responsible for sort of the staking and the staking rewards. So these are things that are really important to us, like kind of going back that we really want the players to kind of be in control on how they think these cities should be run. When it comes to our own kind of treasury, I think that's going to be probably a separate talk for like the main one on how we see that's going to work. And for the community, we just probably don't have the right answers for that right now. But in terms of like how that works in the sub DAO, we have a pretty clear vision for that.
Next question is from NG. He's concerned about the 4x gameplay getting boring after a while. He specifically says, that the problem with strategy games is in the gameplay of the game, due to the extent of activity of the players. After a while, some simple jobs like planting or harvesting or stuff like that gets boring for the player. In the past, they've resolved this problem with the help of artificial intelligence. What is your solution?
So I think the big thing that you'll kind of, if we're talking about like other 4X strategy games, I think the most important thing that we call out is they're generally a single player experience. So even if we're talking about some of the more like free to play 4X strategies games, we're like, hey, yeah, but I'm part of a guild. Yeah, you're part of a guild, but it's still like a single player game. You just have your own kingdom and you're doing your own thing. You basically join a guild either because you don't want to be attacked by other players or you're hoping there's some kind of defense and numbers kind of strategy. And these things do get kind of boring over time because you're just really still playing by yourself and you're constantly in a grind or a race thinking you need to kind of compete with every other individual player to kind of succeed and win. And definitely as you're sort of like advancing forward and you're kind of making more complex things, you feel it's a lot of work when you're by yourself to do this kind of work to make really advanced buildings. And that's kind of where I think Civitas is really different because, you have to start thinking about I'm not just doing things for myself. I'm a citizen of a city and we're all kind of working together. So everybody wins when the city is kind of winning. And so you're going to have people who are constantly supporting you that you're strategizing with and you're not longer just like an individual in a guild, like you're a part of something bigger than that. Um, so, with that, we're definitely still going to have production lines and things you need to craft and build, but we are kind of thinking a lot more about the sort of community aspect and that kind of engagement and doing things a little bit bigger. So, an example of that could be that, yes, you might have your land and you're gathering things, but there's now this kind of world quest and now everybody in your city is kind of working together to construct one thing to achieve something. So you're always going to have this like bigger goal above you of things you can be doing, and the things that you're kind of doing on your land is just your kind of vehicle that help you do these bigger metas, to do these bigger, more ambitious things with your city. So you're kind of doing these different things or crafting things or getting certain resources to help drive your city's success instead of just your own personal success. So I really feel that we can't understate like how important it is to have a game that's like truly about community and collaboration. Um, and I think that there's no other kind of 4X game that I could think of right now that is like this.
Cool. I mean, this touches on a subject. Manta Ray 007 kind of brings up another statement that 4X games historically have suffered from a lack of end game content, especially when it comes to civilization type games.
Yeah.
When it becomes who has the bigger doom stack or the bigger stick. I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about, our future plans for end game content and the evolution of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that's to be really kind of clear with this is, definitely in civilization, like you get to an end that, like I said, a winning condition in civilization is you just get to a certain technology level and you just win. So ours is a lot more that you can kind of imagine that it's not necessarily about who has the biggest sticks get a win because it's going to change. And as you're sort of moving through different technology eras against other cities, the sort of balance of like who could be more powerful at that time is going to change. And this is very similar to the real world right now. We can kind of think of countries right now that 20 years ago were the most powerful kind of on the global stage, and now it's kind of changing. And we're going to have that in Civitas also, because one important thing in our game is the type of resources that exist for the land that you have for every city is unique to that city. So each city is kind of having access to its own type of natural resources they can be using. Now, some of these resources might be really, really important on an ancient era, but they're maybe a little bit less important in the modern era. So you're going to see this kind of balance go up and down a little bit as cities are advancing, and they're going to find out, oh, I don't have this. I'm actually going to have to now start having a trade agreement with Manila if I want to get these resources that I need. I'm going to have to be friends with them, and they don't like me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have to work on that relationship with that city so they can start trading me these things that I need. So this balance is going to change kind of throughout the game of how cities have to work together. In the same time, cities can form allegiances. They see that London is getting too strong too fast. Maybe all the cities make a trade pact that they work together and London's not part of it. So there's a lot of personal level in this of like the politics and the drama that might kind of play out of how, cities are going to be advancing and that kind of conflict. So I think it's not so much like I said before, like very early on, there's not really like a winning condition, that this is kind of like a living world, and the things that are showing success or power are going to be swayed by the community all the time.
That's very cool. Kona has another question regarding balancing. Um, he is concerned about being a new player who joins the game, and how do you compare to players who've been playing for 2 years?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that this kind of goes a little bit to the P versus P part when we talked about it, that I kind of mentioned we would be at times introducing new cities when it's like appropriate to add a new city. And we don't want older cities kind of like bullying them. So this will kind of help like new players always kind of having like an entry into the game if there's like a new city and they wanted to join that. And there's a lot of advantages to being in a new city because, like I said, there's going to be like unique resources that exist in every city, which means there's going to be different NFTs or buildings that these cities get access to. So there's a lot of fun being part of something new and getting access to like new technology and new things that they're making. Um, Secondly, cities that already exist in the game will grow. We have a lot of interesting mechanics that, again, will be kind of player driven, but cities do have a way to expand. So, say we had just like a city like Tokyo, and the game started, there's a certain amount of players living in that city. They can actually be kind of working to expand their city, and new players can move in. So even a brand new player who's new to the game might move into even an older city. And then that's kind of where the community would be there to say, to welcome people in. They can start learning about the game. There'll be people to guide the new citizens that kind of came in and see how they can start helping and be involved and building that society. So there's going to be a lot of really interesting entry points for like new players to kind of come into the game and not really necessarily be worried about, oh, I wasn't day one, so there's no point. There's going to be a lot of value for players to join at any time. And players that already exist will want new players because their city's growing. They need new people. They need more people to move in and help and contribute. So it's going to be something that happens, and it'd be pretty supportive.
I think that was a good in-depth answer to that. We'll go a little bit back to, you were talking a lot about trade earlier, and obviously the kind of in-game economics between different factions. The issue of gas fees, Zenava asks, which states this is a top concern for current Gamify players. How do we plan to alleviate this problem for Civitas? Hello. Hello.
Kent's audio has dropped. Can someone
No.
take this question?
Did Cat's audio drop? Not mine.
No, it was.
I can hear you. Yeah, Thor was asking on behalf of Zenava the issue of gas fees and how Civitas is going to alleviate this problem.
Yeah. So when it comes to gas fees, definitely that's a huge concern for a lot of people. And there's a few things that we are doing on our end right now. The first one comes into with the actual game design itself. So we're definitely when we start going through design right now, we're definitely having a lot of discussions of which things need to be off chain and which things need to be on chain, and how do we sort of mitigate this. So we are trying to make sure with the design that only meaningful or important things and not too frequent things are necessarily hitting the chain, just to kind of ensure that people can play a lot of the game, earn and advance and progress, and not necessarily needing have to be interacting a lot with the chain and having to deal with gas fees. So this will be like a constant design challenge of us that we're kind of working through. Secondly, we are very interested and dedicated to looking at L2 solutions on Ethereum. We have a lot of kind of partners like Arbitrum, and we're trying out CK Sync. So we're kind of trying out a lot of like these tools right now, and we've been really impressed by their capabilities and their potential. It's a little bit early right now because obviously the merge hasn't occurred yet. So we're not really too sure which will be the best one. So we are a bit agnostic right now to decide which one will be our final solution. But we're pretty confident that by the time we're ready to launch, and ready to get people kind of playing the game, that one of the L2 solutions will be definitely a way that we're going.
Cool. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah. So we have from Lowenhertz here a very important question. Will lizards be a secret faction?
Yeah. Yeah, so we definitely through Kieran, and yeah, we love that guy. He's been involved, supporting Civitas from day one. He's one of the first people that we kind of talked to when we were kind of done the design. And yeah, we're big supporters of the lizard family, and it could be a thing. We're definitely talking to Kieran if there's any interesting ideas, for a partnership. Nothing to announce, nothing to say that's confirmed. But yeah, we love kind of what they're doing with that kind of collection and the community in terms of like what they're trying to build with it. And if there was some interesting kind of collaboration that we think makes sense for Civitas, or a way that people who own ETH lizards can be using that somehow in the game or showing it off. I think we're 100% kind of supportive of like really great community initiatives like that.
Very cool to have secret societies. We have a question from bigunpopka about music. He is a music creator himself and would love to know, is there any way to make some music for Civitas?
I would say like right now, if you guys haven't checked out like the community channels or community creations, like do it. There's some amazing people creating amazing art and little videos already on Civitas. So we're 100% supportive of everyone kind of creating things and kind of showing things that they're interested about or they love. And we are going to probably be announcing sometime soon some interesting kind of community stuff around that too, to kind of to show our kind of appreciation, and kind of showcase a lot of people here who have already been like making amazing content. So I would say definitely if people want to create things, share it there. And everybody on the team looks at that. And we're constantly sharing this internally with the whole team. So, definitely anything that anybody makes, we're looking at it and talking about it, and we've been pretty impressed, like just how much people have done and how cool it is and how creative people have been. So I definitely encourage everybody, if you have some creative skill or just anything, definitely do it and showcase it. We see it.
So we have, I mean, we've second last question we had planned to address is coming up. We've kind of gone over a lot of different topics about, the ins and outs of how things are going to be or how we're thinking things. But I mean, this is obviously a very important question from Lowenhertz. What is the roadmap? Like, how are we going to get there?
Yes, the super hard one. So we have a few things that we want to be doing first that I feel, or the team and everyone here feels is really important. So I know the first thing we want to do is start kind of showcasing a little bit about some of our first like NFTs and how this works within the game. And this is really important to us more than just trying to get some NFTs out, because it becomes kind of the springboard how we start talking to you guys about utility and other game mechanics and how things work, but also introducing a lot of the game lore and things about these characters' history into it for some like world building to kind of really understand how all these things kind of work together. Um, so that's probably the first thing that we're kind of tackling right now, because it just really kind of lets people understand a lot more about Civitas. And we're going to want this kind of showing to you guys within the next kind of couple months of really kind of seeing this. And we've already kind of started a little bit now with the art leaks, but this is going to definitely kind of pick up with us kind of showing you guys kind of more 3D assets, and then us getting a lot more into just like very focused, maybe like on Twitter or Twitch or Discord, talking about the design, like the gameplay design of these with you guys. Um, Ultimately, and what we're kind of working towards as like a bigger goal is getting into kind of like an alpha state. Now, this is going to be a pretty big moment for us for a few reasons. One, definitely once you start getting the game into your community's hands, it's a very scary moment. But we do understand, like I said, we've been making games a long time, and it's really important that we get new eyes and fresh feedback on what we're building. It's very easy as developers too that you start building something, you believe everything you're making is right, you think everything makes sense, this UI makes sense, why you click this makes sense, because you've just been too close to the project. So it is really important we start bringing in like new people to kind of make sure we're kind of making the right decisions or not seeing things that we not seeing anymore. So our goal is to, through the community we have here, that we start introducing some kind of players to come start playing with the development team, and we can start asking more focused questions and getting your kind of feedback on what we're building. So our goal is to kind of be in that state kind of by the end of this year or the very beginning of next year, and have something where we can start bringing you guys into the product to start playing with. If we can do that sooner, we definitely will, but we just have a lot to build right now. But that's kind of the goal that we're working towards right now. And then with the idea of having a more full kind of public release sometime in 2023.
Very good answer. It is now time, Kent, to address the big elephant in the room.
Oh,
Get ready for this. When whitelist?
when whitelist? Yes, the number one asked question. Can I get a whitelist? When's the whitelist? So we've definitely been telling everybody this isn't announced yet, and that's still kind of our answer, but I can give a little bit more details on it though. So the one thing that is important to us is, for one, there will be some form of community whitelist for sure. We don't have the exact numbers on how many that will be, but we definitely want to make sure that we're doing some community events. We're doing something with you guys, that we're giving the opportunity for the community to be involved, a chance to get on a whitelist. With that, I would like to say too, like, our plan is definitely to have a fair mint. So we aren't whitelisting any of the development team. We're not whitelisting any of our partners or anything. Nobody is getting on the whitelist. Any whitelist we do will only be from the community, and everything after that will just be a fair mint. But yeah, it's too early for us right now to say exactly the numbers. Just know that uh, you guys will have a chance to get on it, and we are watching people and seeing the engagement, and everyone who's like actively involved, and we have a lot of fun things, at least that we're planning, to kind of give people the opportunity to participate.
Cool.
That was a big one.
So we've gone over all the questions we had kind of digested, filtered out from the bulk we got in the AMA channel previous to the AMA, and are now going to go into some of the questions that have been asked while we've been live. Have about 50 minutes left, so we can, if people have more in detailed questions, again, please post them now, and we might have a chance to address them later on. But I have a question here from Chris Shieh. He is wondering about many GameDeFi projects that are missing the high quality gaming experience, where people are simply coming to the projects for financial reasons, not caring about the game. It's a bit long-winded, the question, but we kind of addressed this earlier. But I mean, I think it's safe to say that we are building a game first, and the blockchain, the NFTs, is a tool that we see can enrich that experience. Do you agree with this, Kent?
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing too, that I think will kind of help this a little bit too. Is I don't want to go too much into our crafting design, but one thing that we are sort of really looking at in this game is people who are actually playing the game and working at it and doing the things in the game design by building and doing all the stuff to kind of advance their city. They're going to be accessing, there's certain NFTs that, through the crafting loop, only people who are actually kind of playing the game and earning these better buildings or items, NFTs, they can only be doing this from inside the game. So yes, you always get some players that play some blockchain games and they earn a bit of tokens and they leave. But the things that are going to have like real like kind of value are the things that people worked for, or the things that people played the game and earned by actually playing it. Just like the idea, if you played a really good RPG and you played a long time and you advanced your character, you feel good that like, my effort is showing how good my character is. The things that you're going to be able to mint within the game are only going to be from your activities. So there is going to be no outside person who just jumped in and got like the best NFTs that aren't actually playing. It's really going to be a system that rewards people who are playing. So I think that's going to be a really compelling thing for people who, are really invested in the project, not just the people who are trying to make a couple tokens early and leaving and cash out.
So the real value is going to be created by time spent
Yes,
invested in the game.
100%.
Key
Cool.
G has a question about the barrier of entry to this game. We addressed this a little bit earlier, talking about the nomad position and being free to play. But I guess we can address more about becoming a citizen. He says, despite play to earn games being popular, they have become very difficult to access. How Civitas plans to do this, what will be the minimum requirements to start playing. That's obviously free to play, but let's assume he's talking about becoming a citizen and acquiring land within a city.
So there is no barrier. You don't need any budget to get into the game. We have a pure free to play path into it. When it comes into being a citizen of the sub DAO, there will be land that needs to sort of be acquired that is granting you that kind of citizenship. But we're going to be sort of ensuring that there's a wide variety of abilities for people to get in, even on lower kind of budgets, to be citizens. And we have a lot of interesting ways too that as people are playing also, we want NFTs that can be earned in the game, which can just grant you citizenship somewhere for free. So we want to also have like additional ways that players have the ability by just playing the game and potentially kind of earning an NFT in the game that might just grant you citizenship for free if you never had it. So we are definitely being mindful that we want this game to be accessible, and we want as many people have the ability to play it with the least amount of barrier as possible.
Cool. A question from whyat, a bit on the technical side of NFTs. Wondering if we are making any innovations to NFTs themselves that will make them more fun. They point to an example from another project where they use their own ERC 3664 protocol to make the NFT modular, allowing you to customize it and change its attributes within the game. This could be relating to characters or environment.
Yeah, I would say that we're constantly looking at a lot of these like interesting new protocols and that are kind of coming out on how that could work for us and what we could do with it. We should definitely have another call, an AMA sometime. We could definitely bring on some of our engineering team that can talk about what we've been exploring. But definitely, if you guys kind of looked at our announcement with partners, like we had people, like I said, like Arbitrum and Charge Particles, who have a way of like people wrapping things inside their NFT. So we're always on the lookout for really interesting things kind of going on in the space, for people building things that we feel could work really well with the design for Civitas and add a better experience for players. So we're constantly looking at these things and testing them right now.
Let's go to the next one. Tholky asks regarding the main DAO, how will it be governed? What will be the in-game currency? What are the functions of the city token?
So the DAO is governed by the city token. So you will need city to be participating in the DAO. We are looking at basically governance systems that it's not weighed by just who has the most tokens. We definitely want at least have the ability that people can be kind of voting, and the vote is no matter how much you have, we want you to have a voice that kind of contributes to the direction of the game itself. So the city token, though, is part of the governance and utility in the game. So what you're earning by playing the game, quests, missions, or other activities, is earning city, and that'll also be the token that you are kind of spending in the game too. So we do have some interesting mechanics to kind of ensure that as players are playing, we have ways that they can kind of either by staking or kind of like locking up their kind of token or a certain amount in the game, so players can kind of feel if they're earning, they can kind of spend it. But no matter what, that will give them still like a DAO governance or their participation into it. So that's kind of how we're seeing city use. So just to kind of summarize that, city is used for DAO governance and voting, but it's also used for utility within Civitas.
Cool. here's a question from TronCienia. I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's on the topic of geolocation. We kind of covered that earlier, but since it's being asked, and it kind of focuses more on in other geolocation games, users have used programs to change their locations to get to the best places quickly, kind of hacking the geolocation restrictions, I guess. You know, are we going to be protecting ourselves from this type of practice?
I would say yes. We're definitely going to do everything that we can on our side to protect users as much as we can to, you know, for security and for the best experience. You know, definitely we've seen those kind of issues before too in like Pokemon Go. So it's on our radar, and it's on our CTO's radar too, that this is something that, you know, when we're ready to start building and showing this, are things that we need at least solutions to stop it or mitigate it so it doesn't happen. So all I can say is it's definitely on our radar, and we're going to do everything we can to just ensure everybody's getting the best possible experience every time.
Good answer. Winterfyre wants to know, is the gameplay design more skewed towards building the city, like Civilization, or more skewed towards territory war and diplomacy, like Rise of Kingdoms?
We kind of covered this a little bit already, but just to kind of go over it again, it's a little bit of everything. But just the difference between us and all of those games is those are really single player games. Even in Rise of Kingdoms, like sure you're joining like a clan or a guild, it's still a single player experience in terms of what you're doing. So you need to kind of step away, that you're not in charge of your entire civilization, your city. You're a citizen in it, and you have to work together with your citizens around you for success. So there's going to be times that as you as a citizen, you are, you know, building on your land and constructing things and getting resources, while at the same time your city itself wants to go to war or they're doing diplomacy, and you also need to participate in that because you are a person of that sub DAO. So it's a little bit of everything, but we're doing our own way on how we're approaching this.
Cool. We have a question here from ChKh. Will there be a possibility to sell an account for profit?
Well, you know, if you have your NFTs, you are the owner of those assets. So if you own a land in a city, your character, other NFTs with the game, you know, you are the owner of it. And then, you know, if that is a possibility, you can. That's up to that kind of player to decide it. We're not here to sort of, you know, dictate or kind of control what people are doing with their assets.
liusengseng asks, how many parties are there in urban construction? How to build a city?
That's a really good question, and it's totally something that I can't give you an exact number right now. We're actually just kind of answering these questions right now internally, kind of as we're building, of kind of figuring out how many people we want in a starting city and how many cities there will be. So this is something we're going to be able to answer with you guys very soon. What I can kind of say is we're just want to make sure that there's enough players that if they kind of come in and they want to join a sub DAO and they want to be part of a city, that we will be able to support that, and there'll be enough ready for the community. But not able to kind of give an exact number today.
Cool. So here is a question kind of on the long term, I guess, game mastering. If it comes to a point where certain players have too much autonomy, impact on the game in a negative way, will the team step in and change, I guess the state of the world at some point?
I think it's not really in a place that we want to sort of be. We want to be the custodians that kind of help build tools and features for you. But we definitely, unless there's something going on that's really wrong, we definitely don't want to be the world police that just fixes every problem, because every problem can actually be an opportunity for good positive change, or other players or cities to work together to fix that wrong. Just like we see in the real world, if sometimes countries align with themselves if they think another country is doing something wrong. So we definitely want to make sure we're putting in enough tools in place that cities can kind of put another city in check if they think they're doing something wrong or behaving badly. Additionally, we want to make sure that on the sub-DAO level, like I said, you're voting in your kind of your council. That if your council isn't doing their job, you can kick them out. The citizens of that city can kick you out because you're not doing your job and bringing a new council. So we kind of want to make sure that there's enough mechanisms in place that players can kind of correct these things themselves without necessarily the development team has to come in and change it themselves, because it sets a really bad precedent if the development team kind of comes in and puts their hand in and changes how a city is being run because people aren't happy. I think no one kind of likes that when that occurs. So I think we would be more in the position of just making sure we have more tools in place that cities can kind of correct this themselves.
Very cool. We have a quick question about POAP for this AMA. As far as I know, we didn't decide on anything like that.
What is POAP?
Participation awards.
Maybe I would have to kind of throw that back with our community team, but we're definitely always sort of looking at ways to kind of reward the community, and I think that would be something we're always kind of looking to. But I'll have to leave that with our awesome two community managers to look into that.
Well,
I guess
Go ahead,
the
Giorgio.
answer could be not for the specific AMA, but for future ones, probably. And we are certainly looking into more ways to create more engagement and reward people for participating into more community activities. So, as usual, soon.
we have a couple of questions here from Yusan and from Rocco that are kind of related. One is on the production progress of NFTs. I guess how soon are they coming? And the other is kind of on, is there only going to be a land sale, or is it going to be characters, or what are these NFTs?
Yeah, so our first NFTs will be character related. This is all in development on our side right now. We've been showing like concept art. We have a lot more characters that we're working on than what you guys have seen. And these are all in production pipelines right now. So we'll definitely be sharing this with you guys soon, but also additionally having a lot more details coming out about the game utility on those characters and what these characters mean in Civitas and the design features of it. And yes, there will be a land sale. We haven't locked down the date for it yet, but I would expect you guys should expect it for this year for sure. That we want some part where you guys can start seeing what city you guys want to be a part of and start letting the community start coming up with plans on how they want to start managing their city. So that's definitely a plan for us for this year.
We have quite a few questions about the team. I was wondering, Thor, maybe if you could just do a little introduction of the team as a whole. Like, we had the question I'm looking at is where we're located, but I've also seen questions like, who are we? What have we done before? What's our expertise? What's our experience? Pretty much anything you can think of regarding the team. Is there anything you want to share?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's obviously a very wide open way to look at it. Could probably do just a 2-hour talk just on that. But
Yeah.
the short of it is we have offices in 3 continents, one in Shanghai, one in Los Angeles, and one in Reykjavik, Iceland. We have also contractors and collaborators working all over the globe. We are growing very fast at the moment. We've already grown quite a lot into this project. We have, you can see this in the white paper. You can kind of see there's more people actually been added since. We haven't had the opportunity to update the white paper, but we have people who have founded some of the biggest gaming companies in the world. We have people who have worked on numerous huge IPs, EVE Online, Star Wars, worked in big companies like Electronic Arts with LucasArts, worked with international superstars like Bjork, and from the film industry, working with the likes of Ben Stiller and Darren Aronofsky. So we've been really blessed with being able to bring together a global team of veterans from a very wide range of disciplines, engineering, creativity, and all of the different kind of disciplines needed to bring something like this together. I think I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, definitely have some powerhouses involved. Then there's a question about when we can expect the full white paper.
Soon. So we definitely are just validating a lot of our design choices right now as like we're building and testing. So we definitely kind of want to just make sure that things are working the way that we want or we expect. And then we're going to be kind of updating these things in the white paper, just more so when you're seeing the things there, this is exactly what it's going to be there or intended to be there. We just know what we're testing things right now and we're making changes. So we'll definitely drop like announcements in the channel when we add the next draft of the white paper up.
Cool. Here is a question kind of gives us an opportunity maybe to make some distinctions about gameplay from gvg.LOB. I was wondering about leaderboards, if there will be leaderboards and seasons or those type of mechanics in the game.
Yes, definitely. So the leaderboards were kind of exist within each sub-DAO. So every city within their tower will have like ways that are tracking what players have like accomplished, things that they've built, things they've contributed to the growth of their city, and a bunch of other things that kind of show contribution from residents. So there'll be more than just like one singular leaderboard saying, hey, you're the best, because there could be people doing lots of really good things helping your community, and it's not necessarily about what you produce or what you built. There could be even a leaderboard by just people who thinks that person helped the most in the community channels by organizing people, giving information, and people vote them as like the best citizen kind of thing. So there's a lot of interesting leaderboards we can have, but we definitely want a way that cities can kind of be showcasing the residents in there, what they can contribute, and giving some visibility to that. And we're also definitely looking at some ideas of like how that is compared from city to city, but we haven't quite worked out through all those designs yet.
Good answer. Another question is about how land works and how it works in cities specifically. I think we can maybe clarify this a bit. The question goes, is the cities considered land where everyone can have their own cities? We've addressed this before, but I
yeah,
think we just need to hammer
yeah.
on this point consistently.
Yeah, nobody is in control of a city. Nobody has their own city. You are a citizen of that city, so you have a piece of land within that city, but nobody itself owns the city. The city is the sub-DAO. So it's all the communities kind of have their own little bit of ownership of it, but yeah, they have to work together. So yeah, nobody's in control of a city and nobody owns it.
Here's a great question, follow-up that from Tucson. So sub-DAO cities will be like clans, right? Question. And will we then be able to move from one sub-DAO to another sub-DAO with our land if we want to? Or is it attached in some way to one sub-DAO city?
Yeah, good question. So definitely thinking of it that way is a good way to think of it. Yeah, you could think of a sub-DAO as like a clan or a guild, and you're going to have access to unique community channels being part of that sub-DAO. So definitely even on our Discord, you might have a Manila channel where only if you're a citizen of that sub-DAO, you can access that channel and talk to your fellow citizens. Now, when it comes to how do you move around, right now, the design that we have and the way that we want to approach this is that piece of land is attached to that sub-DAO. So you can own land in multiple cities, but you kind of have to think of these as like separate accounts in a way. They're not necessarily like all controlled under the same inventory or the thing, because they're kind of unique to that sub-DAO. So you can't just transfer to another one. You could definitely sell your land in one sub-DAO and purchase into another city if that's where you want it to be, but it's not necessarily transferring it over.
Cool. I think, maybe I should put the community team on the spot a little bit, like they did with me regarding the team earlier. What are we going to be doing to improving community atmosphere, game like competitions, engagement, what are we what fun stuff do we have planned for the community coming up?
We have a lot of ideas and we're still fleshing them out, but you can expect competitions and rewards for said competitions, airdrop style, and possibly whitelist, but don't quote me on that. And yeah, definitely.
Yes, in general, we want to we want to create some sort of community advocacy program to incentivize people who are active in the community, and give some sort of recognition to those that are more active in Discord as well as other communities. So we're gonna tailor different plans regarding that. But yeah, it's all a work in progress at the moment, and but obviously stay tuned here on Discord or other channels to know more about that. We're gonna make sure to make everybody inform everybody when the time comes.
Cool. Another question directed to you, Kent. People are wondering kind of about our development environment, what engine we're using for production.
So we're building this on Unreal 5. Our development team has a very deep experience working in Real Engine for the last 10 plus years. We're very comfortable in it, working definitely engine level. So it's our engine of choice, and it's what we're kind of developing Civitas on.
Here's a question on tokenomics. What's the tokenomics and how are you going to protect against fast flippers?
So yeah, that's I think we kind of covered that like a little bit when we kind of talked about that a lot of the NFTs within Civitas will be things that players actually have to be playing the game and crafting and minting it within the game itself. So there isn't so much of like fast flippers. We're not necessarily putting out, hey, here's all the building NFTs in the game. Here you go, guys. And then, yeah, people are just kind of flipping it. So a lot of the NFTs that are actually going to be earned within Civitas through the crafting in the buildings will be actually the players themselves playing and working and earning those NFTs. So a lot of the market is really set there for the players who really want to invest in the product and earn it and achieve it and get those items. Not necessarily us just minting a whole bunch before the game is out and then people flipping it or stuff like that. So that's our main approach is we want players to be earning what they get, not just the speculators just buying it and flipping it.
So here's a question from Dambi about land and the world map. They say they heard that the game is based on a world map, but the number of land will be quite large. They want kind of a little bit more detail on how many lands there are in total. Can they use the land if they're staking it, etc.
So we haven't really locked down the exact number of cities and land yet. We're just kind of in that phase right now. So we'll definitely be able to share that with you guys really soon because, yeah, it's really important for us to first make sure that we have enough land accessible for players playing the game, that they can get land and it's not something that's kind of short supply. So we don't have the exact number right now, but what I can kind of say to you is we definitely have mechanics or things that we're playing right now where people who have land can be using it for staking. And a lot of that kind of comes with, like, again, some of our, partners that we are part of our list, like Charge Particle and others, in terms of like how we want City Token and the land to be working. But we definitely have plans that people can be using their land for using it for staking.
Cool.
Another question about the barrier of entry, really. Maybe we need to address this point again. Sunrise asks, will we need a special NFT to get access to the game?
No. There is absolutely no NFT is required to play Civitas. We have a completely pure free to play path into the game where you can participate in the gameplay on your land, do things in AR, build things, craft things, earn city tokens, and you do not need any NFT to be playing.
There's a really interesting question here from Topolui. It's about the how the game will avoid homogenization of as everyone progresses in the same direction, I guess.
So definitely the way that I see this is the game is timeless. So definitely, city themselves will be advancing and cities may have access to like more advanced looking um buildings which are like NFTs in terms of like their look, but that doesn't change the utility or the look of things that you might like that exist in a previous time era. So we could be definitely into this sort of cyber city, but I still might want like a pyramid, or I still might want my stable on my land because it adds this really cruel feature, this utility that I want, or I like the look of it. There's a lot of reasons. So the game is timeless. You're not going to be restricted to building or placing things that are in that set timeline just because your city has access to it. You can be kind of placing and building whatever you want. So the game is kind of timeless, and each city is going to have unique looks, basically what the players have access to, what they built. So we don't need to worry about like one set art direction for everything.
Cool.
Where are we now? Right now, we have 2 questions in here. Question from Runsensen. In the future, as a member of Civitas, how do we individual holders follow Civitas to respond to market changes? How can our individual holders better help the development of Civitas? Will Civitas give priority to protecting early holders according to market changes?
So if this is meaning things within the game or like the market value, I'll kind of cover two, because I'm not too sure if you're talking about things in game right now or just like the market as a whole. I'll cover the in-game part first. There'll definitely be things that players can access from a website or within the game, where you're kind of seeing how the market within the game is developing, the cost of items within it through resources or tokens or the trade or the market. So we want to make sure that players have like extra views into the internal game market as much as we can. If you're kind of now talking about the market as a whole, like the volatility of like the token price, everything like that, we haven't really been looking yet on sort of individual tools that sort of give some type of priority protection. I think the biggest thing we can do is just making sure we're very transparent on our end about what we're building, the choices that we're making in terms of like emissions curves for tokens, how things are happening, the tokens are being burned, or releases with NFTs. And I think, I'd rather just make sure we're just absolutely transparent on our end, than necessarily putting in, a priority protection for people.
Cool. There's a follow-up question here about free-to-play nomads, about the earning part of the game. Are they expected to earn in the same way as NFT players, token holders? And would they be a burden on the economy or the token, and then in some sense?
Yeah, it's a super good question. I would say right now it will not be the same. We are kind of at least discussing this internally, that we definitely want free to play players to be able to come in and people to see if this is a game they want to play, which we think they will. But we want them to experience the game and the economy and feeling like what I can earn is the potential of it. But definitely, we understand that with the current market and how games work, that having it one for one, for that, and people can just take things out, is very negative to the people who are very committed to the project and wanting it to move forward. So we don't know exactly how much right now, but I will say that it won't be the same. And we are kind of putting things in place to make sure that the economy as a whole and the players who are invested in the product are kind of protected for that.
Cool.
I noticed a question that was still in the list about localization. Do we have any plans regarding localization and having the client in different languages?
We definitely will be looking at additional languages. Obviously, this whole game is about global cities, and that doesn't work if it's a single language game. So definitely right now as we're, developing it, we're not necessarily developing it in all language like as we're developing it, but as we release this and people can start playing it, we will be 100% supporting other languages. That's the beauty of this game when you can imagine sub-DAO cities existing in, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Europe, Latin America, Africa, that other languages that people would be playing there from. And that's also part of the diplomacy and the trade dealing with these other sub-DAOs. So we'll 100% we're having additional language support.
There are a couple of questions here from Wilson and Caveman, which I think are kind of tangentially related. One is about, for how long do we expect this game to last? Like, what is the business model about the long-term running of the game? And the other one, is there a built-in storyline progression, or is this a totally community-driven story?
Yes. So definitely we're building this game for the long run. And when it comes into how do we do that, there's a lot of things that we're sort of looking at right now in terms of like how do we continually have enough to be developing this to last. A lot of that will kind of come into some other partners that we'll definitely want to be adding that is a little bit too early for me to mention. But additionally, I kind of talked a bit before that cities grow and cities need to grow and new land needs to kind of come out. We definitely have ideas for like new characters and themes. The idea of like the mini games when AR releasing tools to the DAO to kind of make more games kind of coming up for people. So we have a lot of interesting mechanics in terms of like how this is going to be working with the community and the market. How can this can be really compelling to other brands and partners to kind of come in, and additionally, the way that we're building this, our ability to add in new, really good content that people see that adds value for it, to kind of ensure that we're always kind of bringing things back into the treasury to support the project. So we have a lot of plans for that. And definitely, a part of our heritage of being part of, EVE Online, a game that's been running for 20 years. We have a lot of ideas that we've seen for that, of things that we know that works, and some things like that that we feel definitely we can apply to Civitas.
Cool.
I noticed a question up here about third-party wallets. Do you want to address third-party wallets?
Which question is that? Third-party wallets has in
To minimize gas fees is the example taken.
Yeah. Like
I would say like we're very open right now. Like our tech team is exploring a lot of things right now on that. So I know some new people joined. So I'll kind of at least say it again. We're definitely looking at like Ethereum is our main chain, but we're definitely looking at L2s. And we have a lot of partners that kind of came on with like Arbitrum, and we're testing out ZK Sync 2.0. So the L2 is something that we see as the future. When it comes to third-party wallets, our team is consistently looking at all the options out there and how would that work with the user experience, on how we make sure that this is something we can onboard new players for, to make sure that they understand that there's value and there's things for it. So I guess my answer would be that if we find a third-party wallet that we feel is kind of aligned to what we want for the overall user experience for a player, and we think it adds value in a positive way, we'll definitely explore that.
Cool. So we have this this question from MSL. Just in general, if there are plans to collaborate with other projects in the future.
Yes. We haven't, we're just in the very early steps with like a few. But definitely, we have criteria that's really important to us, like definitely, other teams that we feel are making good quality projects and that they really care about the community and they're kind of developing to the same values that we have in terms of making good products. But definitely we're super open to, we're speaking with a lot of these other projects or other games. If a partnership makes sense and we think it's good for you guys and good for us and it adds value and it makes the game better, then we'll definitely explore that. But definitely we want to make sure that if we're doing a partnership, there's something that's adding value in the game itself to you guys. We're probably less interested in just a partnership on something that is just cosmetic and it doesn't actually make something in the game better. So, we're definitely open to it, guys, but we do have some strict criteria on our end.
Good answer. Tron wants to know what we think about Layer Zero, how NFT omnichain projects are becoming popular, which may be a new trend.
Yes. I'm definitely interested in the omni-chain kind of stuff and how that can work. I kind of want to see like a little bit more from it, but like I said before, we're very agnostic right now where we're looking at everything as we're developing because we have the time. We still have a lot to do that we can definitely develop things or add things that we think will be the best. So, it's definitely something we're looking at. And again, if we feel it starts adding value to you guys and it's good for the game, and we'll definitely look at making something that we support.
Cool. So our time is almost out. We have 3 minutes left, or a little less than that. But there is a question here. We've talked about a lot of the ins and outs and the inspiration and all of this. But the question is from Yusnich, and it is: can you tell us what makes Civitas unique?
I know, like I've probably said this so many times for this AMA that maybe you guys will be tired of hearing this one word, but it's really about community. And I'll say it every single day. The people here that have seen me speak in the chat and general chat, I always say, you guys are like family and this is community, and I really believe that. And I think it's truly something that's really important for us for Civitas, and the core design mechanics are built around community and collaboration. And a lot of projects out there kind of say, oh yeah, we have a good community. Yeah, there's a community around it, but our game is built around a community doing things together, not just people engaging on Discord and Twitter and Twitch and everything else. Like the actual features are around people talking and working together and solving problems to advance. And there's no game out there right now on the blockchain side that is thinking like this. They can all say great community, but they're not building things for the community to actually do things together. And I think that absolutely makes us unique. And yeah, I say it every day in the general chat for those that have been hanging out every day and chatting with me. And I'll keep saying it every day.
I think those are great final words. Do you guys from community want to wrap this up for us?
Yes, I would like to thank everyone for joining and these wonderful questions. And we sincerely hope that we have provided some clarity on the project and made you guys more excited about it as we are. And more to come. Stay tuned.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, we've been very grateful for the participation. We had up to 390 plus people joining in, and we're very happy with that. Thank you all, guys. We remind again that the whole AMA has been recorded and is going to be also transcribed into a Medium article. So worry not, in case you missed something, you're going to have the chance to read it or even listen again. Yep. hopefully we're gonna have another one soon. And as usual, keep following us in every channels to not miss leaks, news, and any possible new information on roadmap, whitelist, and everything else that you guys want to know about.
Thanks, everyone.
Well said.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
everyone.
one. Thank you again. Bye.